Welcome, Lambert families, to our final episode of the 25-26 school year. We appreciate those who have been tuning in all year. And if this is your first time joining us for one of our Lambert Connected podcasts, we welcome you. I have several guests in the booth with me today, and our topic for this last episode is around the testing season. We know that in this final stretch of the school year, our students are preparing for several high-stakes tests as they wrap up their school year. We've actually are already in the middle and wrapping up our end-of-pathway assessments, and we are gearing up to start end-of-course assessments, which are our state assessments. We are getting ready for AP exams, which are the final assessments in our AP level courses. And then, of course, we have final exams for students who are not exempt at the end of the year for those and are preparing to wrap up their classes with that final exam. So lots coming at them, and we know this is a stressful time for them. We also know it's a super exciting time, especially for our seniors. So in the booth with me today to help our parents just kind of know what to expect in these weeks coming up, we have our two assistant principals who serve as our test coordinators. Mr. Joel Posey is our test coordinator who is over the EOCs, and Dr. Jess O'Kelly is our assistant principal who is over our AP exams. We are also welcoming one of our great counselors, Ms. Avila, who is going to share with our families just some tips on supporting your student with any test anxiety. We know that, like I said, this is a really stressful time as they want to finish well and finish strong and do perform to the best of their ability on these upcoming tests. So to get us started, Mr. Posey, can you just explain to our parents what is an EOC and which courses have an end-of-course test?
Yes. Hey, everybody. Yes, our end-of-course is EOC. End-of-course test is a state-mandated test for algebra, biology, U.S. history, and used to be American Lit, and now it's Lit Comp 2. It's the brand new test.
Fantastic. So not every course has an EOC is what you're saying. It's just those courses.
Yep, just algebra, biology, U.S. history, and Lit Comp 2. And these, like I said, it's a mandated test that you take at the end of the year, and it counts for 10% of your grade.
Fantastic. And Dr. O'Kelly, can you explain for our listeners, if their student may be in their first AP course ever, what is the AP exam?
So the AP exam is a summative assessment that's given at the end of any of the advanced placement courses that our school offers. These are College Board approved curricula. And so these exams, students pay for them, and then they get to come here on campus. We administer the test, and depending on their score, they can earn college credit for those different courses.
Fantastic. And we are super fortunate that our Board of Education approves a virtual week for us just to logistically manage all that goes into proctoring these examinations. I may be putting you on the spot, but Dr. O'Kelly, Mr. Posey, can you give our listeners just an idea of how many tests we will administer? I know we're a large high school and we have a lot of students. How many tests will we administer during the virtual week?
For AP exams, we will give 5,746 tests.
And for the EOCs, we're looking at a little over 2,200 total tests.
All right, so a significant number, and obviously to give those tests to provide solid testing environments, secure testing environments to meet all the mandates of the state and of College Board, that takes a lot of our staff. So we're very thankful that we have the virtual week structure and we can dedicate all of our resources to testing during that week to make sure that our students have, the environment that they need to be successful. Ms. Avila, can you kind of jump in, because we know our students at Lambert are very driven. We know that they take multiple AP courses. They may even be enrolled in some dual enrollment courses that have final exams going on as well. Can you offer for our parents just some tips for them in keeping their student focused and just not overwhelmed by all the testing ahead of them?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will start by saying I think it's really important for parents to just look at their child as an individual, right? Whether your child is taking one AP their freshman year or if they've opted to take other courses outside of their schedule, as well as our seniors who could potentially be taking up to 7 or 8 AP courses. I think it's important to look at the individual child, right? Like, what are those challenging subjects, and helping your child come up with a plan to help spread out the testing so they're not cramming. But also, if they are an individual who is very well organized and they don't really need a lot of that support, reminding them to take those breaks and practice self-care, giving that time to disconnect and be with families is really important, because sometimes when you're in the testing kind of mindset and zone, you can forget about those things, and even things like eating and just walking away for a little bit and getting fresh air.
Perfect. Thank you. Ms. O'Kelly, for our freshmen and possibly some of our sophomores, even juniors, if they are getting ready to take their first AP exam ever, what are some things they need to know in terms of logistics and how AP exams function differently than maybe the milestones that they're used to in middle school?
So AP exams start at different times than milestone exams start. So if you have a morning exam, the test starts at 8. We recommend that you get here about 7:15. If you have an afternoon exam, it starts at 12. So we would recommend getting here at like 11 or 11:15. Obviously, students aren't allowed to bring their phones with them, so we recommend, since they know how long each exam will be and when it will start, we recommend that if you don't drive, work out a pickup time and location with your parents, so that you know exactly where you guys are going to meet and when you're going to meet after the exam, since you won't be able to text one another to coordinate a meetup time. We also recommend, this is the first year for everyone of testing using one-to-one devices, so we encourage everybody to make sure that they have a fully charged Chromebook when they come to school. For AP exams, you also have to have an ID when you come in. This is a requirement of the College Board. Students who don't have a school ID or a government-issued ID can print out the College Board AP ID form and bring it up to our front office to have that verified. So we recommend just being really prepared. We've sent out several communications already, and teachers I know are working with students to make sure that they know exactly what's going on. But just make sure that you're bringing the right things, that you're planning ahead, charging your Chromebook overnight, get up early, have a good breakfast, and make sure that you are here on time and ready to go.
And Mr. Posey, how is that different from our EOCs? Because we know, like many of our freshmen, they are likely to have a biology EOC and then perhaps an AP human AP exam. So I know that those two are different. What can they expect from an EOC standpoint?
Well, we do all the virtual, during that first week of May, it'll be virtual. So those students they'll arrive on the bus or get dropped off or drive themselves. And we're asking the ones that are taking the AP exam to park on the gym side. And then all the rest, the EOC, they can come in on the bus, or if they drive, to get dropped off at the front of the building, just so we have a little bit of separation for all the students. Now, the EOCs every day will start at 8:25, and we're asking them to be here, I would say 15 minutes early, 10 minutes at the least amount, but most will be here before that. And they should already know, their teachers have been communicating which room they're going to be testing in, but if somehow they forget, we're going to have everything posted at the T, which is the main intersection of the hall. We'll have it all posted in glass. They can double check maybe the Thursday, Friday, rolling into that following Monday, for that very first test, so just so they know where they're going. And if they ever wonder, if they forget, there's always people in the hall to help direct them. But yes, getting here 15 minutes early, get to your testing location, make sure that when you use the restroom, have your Chromebook charged, all the things that are similar to the AP exam. But it'll just be a little bit different, being that, AP exams start earlier, the EOCs start at 8:25, and just be ready for a normal day. And when you get released from your EOC, it is a normal day. So if you don't get picked up, you can go get lunch, and any remaining kids will hang out in the media center and wait for busing.
So even though it is virtual, transportation will run for our students who need transportation to and from on a day that they have a test, and we also will still be running lunches for those who need lunch at school. So just keep that in mind, parents, as you plan for the week. Where can our parents find a schedule of all of the exams, EOC and AP test?
So we did send this out to all of our parents already. If you're registered through Total Registration for an AP exam, we sent it to you through whatever email you shared with us. We also sent it to your student. And then we also sent it to all families through an Infinite Campus Messenger. So everyone should have been sent this directly to their inbox. You can also find the schedules on our LHS testing website, which is just part of the Lambert High School website. All of our milestones, EOC schedules are on there. And then the AP exam schedule is typically accessed through your child's College Board account. You'll log in and see exactly what time and date each of those exams are.
Thank you. Ms. Avila, for a student that struggles with test anxiety, what are some strategies to help them?
Yeah, so some of the initial grounding techniques that come to mind, it takes some practice, but one of them that tends to help students is to really focus on their overall body. And so they can start by, it's called muscle tension. And so they can kind of focus on their toes and squeeze them really, really tight. And then after maybe 5-6 seconds, kind of let go, and they'll kind of feel that relief. And then slowly move up the body. And that kind of takes their focus out of the emotions and then back to their physical body. There's also one that I really love called box breathing. And so breathing in, holding that for 4 seconds. Breathing in for 4 seconds, holding it for 4 seconds, breathing out for 4 seconds, and then holding for 4 seconds. Kind of helps with that regulation. So another really popular one that we like to use in the counseling suite is we will go ahead and grab like an ice pack and break it if they are starting to kind of get that physical reaction of feeling very hot or feeling overwhelmed in the moment. Having that cold press on their face or their forehead really helps with that relaxation. But a lot of times for our students, it is going to be getting up and walking away from the situation, distracting themselves momentarily, taking a 5-10 minute break. So then that way they can go back refreshed. And I think that's where those check-ins are, especially for our students that are taking multiple exams and are stressed about, getting a certain grade. But, I would just reassure your student that they have amazing teachers and they have helped them prepare for this exam all year. And so, if they have been doing what they're supposed to and focusing and staying up with the curriculum, they're going to be just fine. Ultimately, they want to do that review, but they want to just give it their best shot and know that they're putting their best foot forward.
Thank you. You bring up a great point about our teachers. What are some things that our teachers are actively doing right now as we kind of get into this final prep for tests? What are some things that they are doing in their classrooms just to make sure our students feel calm and ready and confident?
Teachers do a lot of different things to help the students be ready. I know some of our teachers who work with our freshmen and sophomores particularly are working with them to create study schedules. This is something that we really support and think is just great. It helps the kids to find some balance and to make sure that they're not waiting until the night before to cram for their exams. They're also going over reminders with them, such as, make sure you know your password, make sure your computer's charged, make sure you show up on time, all those things that we've been saying. And then we also have digital readiness checks and some other things that they're doing in the milestones classes. And I'll let Joel tell you a little more about that.
So for over the past couple weeks, we've been testing all the headsets that go with the new Lit Comp 2 test. And during these headset checks, we're actually checking also to make sure that the computers have all the software all set to go and there's no malfunctions on the Chromebooks. And our tech people have been on top of it, repairing any Chromebooks. But just remember that come with those Chromebooks fully charged, and if they notice anything over this next week, make sure they bring it to our tech team so they can address anything they have. Now, they're also doing readiness checks this week for all the Chromebooks, even if they're not using a headset, just to make sure every Chromebook is fully ready for testing.
And we can't stress enough the importance of that fully charged Chromebook when they arrive for testing. What would happen if a student showed up with a dead Chromebook or they forgot their Chromebook? What are potential outcomes of that situation?
So if a student is taking an AP exam and they show up without a charged Chromebook, they could be asked to leave the test. We don't have enough materials to provide every child with a new Chromebook if they show up unprepared. We do have, for students who take back-to-back tests on those AP testing days, we do have some resources available to help those students who maybe their Chromebook isn't going to last the whole day. But the resources that we have are for students who are in that specific situation. We can't help students who come and just aren't prepared. So we really need them to make sure that they've charged their Chromebooks ahead of time so that they're able to participate in testing.
Okay, so I just want to reiterate that again, parents. We have a very limited number of spare Chromebooks, so it is vitally important that our students come with their Chromebook fully charged and ready to test. All right, any other last-minute thoughts, tips that any of you have just for our parents and our listeners as we head into the testing season?
I would just say that, we talk a lot about Longhorn Pride here at Lambert, and a really important part of our Pride Matrix is to be proactive, and you cannot be too proactive when it comes to testing. Like we've said before, that means making a plan to know where you're going to pick your student up after the exam, making sure they have a way to get here on time, that they've had a good breakfast. It means having all of their Chromebooks charged, calculators for AP exams are ready with fresh batteries, making sure that they have sharpened pencils, that nothing can go wrong. The more proactive you are, the more prepared you are, and that will set everybody up for a successful test administration.
And for the EOCs, a couple things. Just remember, when you come, they won't be allowed to have any calculators. They don't need to bring in anything from the outside. We provide them for the EOCs, which is a little different than AP. But really for the EOCs, they can bring themselves and maybe a sharpened pencil or two, everything else they're going to get. For when you're deciding when to pick them up, on the website, you're going to see a ton of information. You're going to see our schedules for the AP exams. You're going to see schedule for EOCs. There's a bunch of information. It gives you study materials, gives you links for parents, links for students. There's all kinds of things you can see on our testing website. But also you'll see on there estimated release times for the EOC, because they won't have their electronic communication device. They won't have any cell phones with them. It'll all be in the backpack or not at school or in the backpack in the hall. They won't have their phones during testing, so they won't be able to communicate when they're done or approximately done. So if you could use those, get on that website, take a look at that. That gives you kind of an estimate at what again, it can vary, but it gives you an estimate at what time you can probably pick them up. Just because you won't be able to communicate with them until they leave the testing room.
And from the counseling standpoint, absolutely prepare, do everything that you can to reach those goals that you've set for yourself, but don't be too hard on yourself if you fall a little short. Every test isn't going to be perfect. You can only prepare so much. And then, for the students that are having exams on multiple days, if you are having some challenges with coping, or you're anxious or overwhelmed about what's to come throughout the day, just know that counselors will be available to continue to support. Even though it is a virtual week, we want to make sure that all students are in their best frame of mind when they're going into these exams.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So just a recap of the big pieces. Remember those Chromebooks. For our AP testers, remember absolutely no devices, no cell phones. You'll be turned away at the door with those. So you need to make sure you leave those either in your car or with your parents if you are not driving yourselves. For our EOC students, the cell phones have to remain in the backpack, which will remain in the hallway if you bring them with you that day. Really, all you need is your Chromebook, and like Mr. Posey said, maybe a sharpened pencil, but otherwise we will have everything else you need to be successful during testing. It is our goal always to make sure that our students are in an environment where they feel safe, where they can be connected, and where they can thrive. And we know that they're just going to continue to do that and show their best as we wrap up an amazing school year, and they get the chance to really show what they have learned on these assessments. Thank you again for tuning in. We appreciate your partnership, and like Ms. Avila said, we are here to help. So if you have any further questions, please consult the website, but also know that you can reach out to our counseling staff, our test coordinators, or any member of our admin team, and we are happy to facilitate and answer questions. Thank you again.